How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.
History for the Sunrisers, and that's something that's been happening regularly at the Chepauk this season, much to the dismay of the loyal Super Kings fans who once again see their team go down, and for all practical purposes now, you think, also out of the running for the playoffs. Stephen Fleming thought they could still be inspired to have a 6-match winning streak like RCB last year. Maybe it'll happen for the Sunrisers, but it can't happen for the Super Kings. That was hardly convincing from Pat Cummins' side either, so we unpacked that game on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Timeout in the fine company of Dustin and, I'll say it one last time, Aaron Finch. Aaron and Finch. I don't want to start on such a critical note, but I can't help but start on a note of that game showed us why these two teams are 9 and 10, even though the Sunrisers have got the points.
Yeah, absolutely. Towards the end there, it was like no team wanted to win it. You go right throughout the game. Anytime there was a partnership, someone just gave it away. And a lot of the time it wasn't through outstanding bowling. It was hitting across the line. It was taking a poor option at the time. So good for Sunrisers to keep them in the competition, but they've still got a bit of work to do to get back into that flow that they had last season.
I mean, I wonder how you would react to a game like that, even if you're on the winning side. It was hardly the outstanding game of cricket, but can something still be fired on from here if you're the Sunrisers?
Look, a win's a win because Sunrisers at the position they were in, they would take this win. And especially when Abhishek has not got runs, Head's not got runs, and Klaasen hasn't got runs, they managed to win. Ishan Kishan coming good today, still not his best innings, I would say, but again, Nitish Kumar Reddy guiding them home at least. So it's still a win, Raunak. I would say that it was scratchy. It wasn't the easiest wicket to bat on, but they have secured the win where CSK were just, I think, 20 runs short.
You could, sorry to cut you off.
Please,
you can actually take a lot out of scrappy wins like that, and like, we've been critical of both teams about poor decision making, but the reality is, like you said, they got 2 points. They come to get 2 points, their first win at Chepauk, and they've done that. So tick that off, bank the points, but then also go back to the drawing board and say, right, what do we need to do? What can we do better? What decisions were we making that were right or wrong at that time?
And also, SRH.
Don't be sorry at all. Please talk more.
And also, SRH are not used to scrappy wins. You know, they're used to just absolutely steamrolling their opponents into submission and winning games. This is one of those games which they would take some confidence out of and be like, you know what, we won that game. We can win games like that. We don't have to just go hard and win a game in 10 or 11 overs.
I think grafting is the word Dan Vittori used, so I guess he would welcome these 2 points. Now, I wonder where you'd kick us off, Dustin. If you kick us off on a number related to wides and no balls, I think that'll sum up this game.
No, I mean, there were a few. I mean, there were 2 no balls from a spinner. But I think also it may be one of the first few games which was really affected by the dew, because it looked like a tacky wicket. It looked like CSK at one point had a bit of control with their spinners. And then that 10th over, when it looked like they actually had the advantage, Dhoni gave it to Sam Curran. I wonder whether that's because the ball had already gotten wet by then. So he didn't want to bowl Noor. Then he actually changed the ball immediately after. I think at 10.4 he changed the ball. Yeah. And then Noor came on the next over. But if you look at the numbers for the spinners, I think Noor's first couple of overs were about 17 or 18 runs. And then the back 2 went for 25. And in the end, he couldn't bowl Jadeja as well, because I think that the ball being wet had a lot to do with that. So.
Yeah, but Noor has fallen off the boil in the last 3 or 4 games. And this is one of those games, again, where he hasn't found his areas. So, yes, the ball does make a difference, but Dustin, to be honest, it doesn't make a huge difference, especially in the 10th over. Yeah, some games where it's absolutely soaking wet towards the end of the innings, it does make a difference because, one, the seam is obviously completely lost any grip altogether, and then the ball's wet. But now you have that option of bringing in that ball, and just 1 over of wet outfield won't make that huge of a difference.
We saw dew come into the conversation even in the first innings today. So I can understand why you say this is a game where dews impacted it significantly. It didn't look like it made life easy for the Sunrisers. I don't know if it still contributed to the eventual result.
Well, you see Abhishek Sharma, the first dismissal, just chips it straight to cover, and he's throwing his hands around because he's probably expecting something different from the wicket, and he feels as though it's held up. But reality is he's just chipped one to cover. Then Noor, like you said, he did get a little bit of spin early on, but just didn't quite have his radar. I think you're coming from a fast bowling point of view when you're talking about dew. Imagine the hardest craft, bowling leg spin with a wet ball. I think that would be incredibly difficult, even if it's just a little bit of dew. I feel as though it's such a feel skill So I think it'd be an incredibly tough execution under
you
pressure.
can strongly disagree with him. There's
Yeah,
no
I mean,
problem.
Jadeja had bowled his 3 overs for 16, but then he didn't bowl again till the game was over. So I'm guessing that must have had something to do with the due if Dhoni's not bowling Jadeja when he's gone at barely 5 and over.
I mean, Noor also bowled like a couple of jaffers.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, okay, maybe the spinners can play a part. And we know that CSK, especially an MS-led CSK, can be at their most dangerous with that kind of game where the spinners are still in it and you can apply some pressure.
Generally, when you see a lot of dew and spinners are finding it really difficult, you see the 12th man scampering around with towels, people wiping the ball a lot between balls. But there was none of that today. And I'm not discounting grip when it comes to you being a wrist spinner.
Yeah, you hit back,
Finchy
man.
was a fine wrist spinner at times when he wanted to.
Wrist spinner?
No, he was finger spinner, but then he would also bowl a few.
Yeah.
See, but.
Little carom balls.
when they landed. Yeah.
No, but on a serious note, yeah, it does make a difference, but it's not like they were bowling absolute jaffers all the time.
I guess the theory is, as I think one of you said, that they were short. 15-20, 180 might have been a game. Maybe not against a form opposition, but against this one certainly. Is it another day where CSK have just realized just batting hasn't fired this season?
Yeah. Again, the batters get in and then get out. There wasn't that one big partnership. You think to GT throughout this season, once they've got their top three, once they get in, they're not giving it away. Whereas we're seeing from quite a few teams, 20s, 30s, but no one going on and having that significant score that then everyone else is allowed to bat around you, and you can be ultra aggressive around somebody because they're already in and you know that they're going to go deep.
Let's flip it around to a positive for the Sunrisers, and maybe we should start with Kamindu Mendes, not a player I thought we'd discuss ahead of this game. Firstly, let's just talk about the selection itself. The fact that you wanted to bring him in, vindicated because he had to just hang around and get 30 without doing anything flashy, and he did that. Not to mention the catch and the wicket of Jadeja.
100%.
Best catch ever.
Not best catch ever, but one of the best catches, at least in the IPL so far. But the way he performed today overall was great and they needed that little depth towards the middle, which he provided, and he just guided them home. Again, a scratchy win, but a win nevertheless.
Kamindu Mendes, we didn't have much on his T20 credentials in this season. And I don't know if he's primarily a bowler or a batter, but I believe he's more a long-form batter. At least his international record would attest to that, right?
Yeah, he's looked at, I think, it's actually changed, I think. I think initially he was looked at as more of a bowling all-rounder, but then I think currently he's looked at more as a batting all-rounder. But
test 100, test 100.
Yeah. But now he's looked at as very much a batting all-rounder. But yeah, I think a lot of their selections went right. Like even picking Harshal, I didn't realize Harshal had really good figures at Chepauk. I think he's gone at barely.
Harshal's a regular though.
Yeah, but we were talking about perhaps playing Rahul Chahar. That would have meant having to leave out one of Shami or Harshal, right? Or leaving out Zishan.
Unatkad.
Oh, okay.
Unatkad.
Don't ever forget Jaidev Unatkad.
But Unatkad's bowled fairly well as well today.
Very good.
This game, yes.
Just back to the finishing. Nitish Reddy in a very different role. Now, do you sense that was a result of a player out of form? It's tricky sometimes when you put a player out of form for arguably the tougher job of seeing the game out.
Yeah, it is. But the last couple of days we've talked about guys who want the game laid out in front of them. They need the game in a position where there's only one way that they can possibly play. And I think that's what we saw tonight. We saw a guy who's got a lot of skill, still quite inexperienced in IPL and international cricket, but the game was there and it told him how he needed to play that situation, and he did that beautifully. I think that it was the right move to get Klaasen up to number 4.
Right.
Mendes, he slides up the order, and then he just goes back into a role where the game's mapped out and you just use your skill and your nous to get you home in that situation.
I'm curious whether this is a common practice or something that deserves more credit from the management, that you take a player out of form and, like you rightly say, give him clarity on what the game needs, as against 3 and 4, where at times Reddy's been over-aggressive to his downfall, or at times he's not assessed the surface or given himself time. This has been a common practice in your experience?
I wouldn't say
or
it's
is
been
it
common.
unique to some players?
To some players, I think it's a tough skill to bat at 3 and 4 in T20 cricket, because there's times when you have to make the play and there's times when you have to be reactive really quickly. So that takes a lot of skill and it takes a lot of experience to be able to sum up the game scenario, the pitch conditions, the opposition and everything really quick, and then be able to make a decision and still execute your skills under pressure. So for me, it takes guys that have done it time and time again and failed at doing it quite a bit as well. But when you're a team and you're under pressure like SRH have been, give the youngsters who have got a lot of skill, give them clarity with their role. Heinrich Klaassen, you're being paid the most. You're one of the best players in the world. You go and do number 4 because that's a really tough role.
Yeah, I guess on a day like this, tough innings stand out or any innings of note stand out. So what was most impressive about Ishan Kishan? I'm sure you're very pleased that he's got himself a score finally after that poor run.
I mean, more than me, his team must be really pleased because, string of really bad scores. I think he scored more runs in this innings than his last 7 innings. So he would have been really disappointed to not take it home. It wasn't like a really good delivery. Again, there was a fielder right there, hit it straight down his
Just
throat.
before that, he did a
The ball
brilliant
before.
shot
Yeah.
for 6.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, he's one of those players who I said if he gives himself time at the start, he can make it up and he can take it really deep. He did that today. If you see the way he went about his innings, he wasn't playing anything rash right at the start. He kind of assessed the wicket and then went from there.
Anything on how he built it today or how they paced their start after the loss of Abhishek?
Yeah, I think it was just good batsmanship, just kind of, riding out those first few overs. He did find it difficult against the spinners, even though it was the ball turning into him from Jadeja, but then he just kind of picked it up as the innings went on.
What stood out from Kishan for you, Finchy?
His ability to read the situation and not overplay his hand early on and be overly aggressive. He made sure he assessed the conditions. Never easy because in the power play you still want to maximise it, but on the back of an early wicket, assessed it and played nicely.
Would you still feel that if you were the Sunrisers, this win would be so much sweeter if your big guns fired? Klaassen's got runs in the last game, you promoted him, use that form. Don't put us under pressure again. But Klaassen, Travis Head.
I think you get more energy into the group when your big players don't perform that well.
I agree, yeah.
Sure.
When you look back on that game as the Sunrisers coaching staff and leadership and even as a fan, you can sit back and go, you know what, we beat a Chennai side in their own backyard that we haven't ever done. Klaassen, Sharma, Head, they haven't got runs. So you go, if we get it right, we can really turn this competition on its head very, very quick.
And that's what we've always been talking about the Sunrisers campaign, that if Head and Abhishek and Klaassen don't fire, they pretty much lose every game, but now they haven't. So that's again a template which they can go off of. Sure. And be like, you know what, even if they don't do it, we are capable of doing it.
All right, let's take some user comments as well, shall we? On our YouTube Live, did the ball change, asks Rishfat, make any difference in the 11th over? We've already touched upon it, but any of you thinking that was a very significant point in the eventual result?
I thought it was a strange time to change it.
Yeah?
Mid-over, especially. I thought it didn't make any difference, so no.
Okay.
So
what I
that's the short
found
answer.
stranger at that was after, I think Jadeja was bowling that over, I think.
Yeah.
And then Kishan asked for the ball to have a look at it. What would he have taken from it?
He would have been assessing it to see if there was an opportunity that it would reverse in the next over.
Oh, okay.
Before it got too wet. Once it gets wet, it's not going to reverse. Both sides are a bit too heavy. But if one side's really scuffed up, maybe there'd be an opportunity for reverse swing for even 2 or 3 balls. So he was just trying to make sure that didn't catch him by surprise.
Devang Sharma, Sam Curran batting at 3 for any franchise. I don't want to be disrespectful, but come on CSK, they're 5-time champions. That decision baffles the viewer. We did at the pre-show say that it's not a bad call, but is there a reason why it's not the way that CSK should operate?
I mean, look, they're short of options. And clearly they're short of options. And it's not like Sam Curran's a novice at this level. If he got runs today, then people would have been like, you know what, that was a great move. But sometimes it just doesn't work out, and it didn't work out today.
And the other option would have been, Brevis, who's just literally flown in. Or, you're putting in who maybe... who else are you putting in? Maybe a Huda up there. It's not like they're spoiled for choice.
And you don't want to be playing Huda versus a ball which is slightly moving.
Yeah.
Like Shami bowling to Huda is not the best scenario.
Yeah. Right. There you go. And Huda has also been woefully out of form. So it was surprising for us that he even came in for Vijay Shankar today. Let's take a few more. Do CSK need an overhaul of their squad next season? We touched upon this on the pre-show actually. But with every loss, I guess the case from the minds of the fans will be there is something majorly wrong, not just something that we can scratch off as one bad season. Is there something majorly wrong with the Super Kings?
Yeah, I think that there is. there's a lack of options at the top of the order. I mean, they invested in the top of the order with Conway, Ratchin, Gaikwad. That hasn't happened this year. Two of them are out of the side. One of them, sorry, they're all out of the side, but one through injury. So that's unfortunate. So I'm not saying that you get rid of them. Maybe you find a way to reshuffle that around and get the best out of it. Try and find a dynamic opener, which I think that they have. It's not going for big runs, but it's a different intent to what they've had in the past. And it's not an overhaul. Sorry, I should say that. It's not an overhaul. It's maybe just 2 or 3 additions to their squad that can have a huge difference.
I mean, Ayush Matra looks good player.
Yeah.
He'll probably get better from here, especially if Gaikwad comes back. I think the question that we will have perhaps towards the end of CSK's league phase would be about which senior players can go back into an auction to give them strength in a mini auction next year. But why don't we just box that for a little while? We have a lot of CSK games still left.
Wait till I'm not here.
No, you'll be back. I'll make sure you're back for that one. I'll make sure Raidu is there for that one.
Yeah.
Because there are some where are Raidu questions. They come every day. Whichever team is playing, people want Raidu either for love or not.
Yeah.
All right, let's take some more. Rachit Garg. Lack of wickets and control from Pathirana has also added to CSK's problems, let alone that the batting is misfiring. Pathirana?
For sure. I think we spoke about it in the pre-show that they have options other than Pathirana, but they've obviously gone with the option that has paid them dividends before. But Pathirana, especially after that slight change of action, he doesn't seem to be that effective anymore. Even with the Yorkers, like that slight tail he used to get in, even when there was no reverse swing, that's missing. I feel his speeds are slightly down, and obviously the amount of wides he bowls is not a good sign, especially for MS Dhoni with his knees having to dive around to the leg side.
Especially when you've got Nathan Ellis, who's such
He's
a quality bowler.
Is there also this obsession to bowl him so late? I mean, that game was alive for a bit.
Yeah.
Pathirana still came in 12th over?
Yeah, I mean, and that 10th over again, I think that was a big over in terms of the momentum shifting back to SRH. They gave it to Karan, he went for 14.
Yeah.
I mean, even if the ball's a bit wet, you don't want to bowl a spinner, why not Pathirana on the 10th over?
Yeah, it's so hard to bowl 4 overs in the last 10. And they're relying on him to do that. With an unusual action, you can understand, and you're talking about release points that are, you're talking a centimetre or two, and that because he's so slingy, that radar becomes so wide, and I think just the fact that there's so many wides, it hurts you at the end of the day. It's just free runs.
Let's take some more questions. Lawrence John, CSK are getting everyone in form. Last game was Rohit, this time it's Ishan Kishan. Tough season, man. SBM, I like this question. Is Jadeja the batter holding CSK back? Because he's in the team, they feel they have to use, because he's in the team, they feel to have to use him in this role right now, but he doesn't look adequate for any batting position. Ravindra Jadeja's batting? Anybody?
Look, I feel Jaddu is not in his best form, for sure. He's not striking the ball like he was a couple of years ago. Bowling-wise, he hasn't been getting the wickets as well. He's been keeping it really tight, but he hasn't been getting the wickets. But then again, it's one of those things where, like we were talking about, people having role clarity or the game giving them role clarity. I think Jaddu was really well suited for that number 6, number 7, where he had a lot of role clarity, come in, know exactly what he has to do. But then him batting at number 4 just throws a lot of options open to him, and I think he's a bit confused where and how to go.
If I may offer a point, and you can agree or disagree with it, Jadeja, the T20 batter, has always had a very limited impact, significant one, but a limited one, and he relies on top order runs, most certainly, and someone who also will get runs at the other end, almost a really good complementary piece of a squad. In this team, it's not quite working because everyone's failing, so his role is exposed. Now, I don't know how much you can expect out of him, but for me, he's not batting any differently than he's batted for a long time.
No, exactly right, and that's all you can ask of somebody, to do the job that they've been asked to do for so many years, and he relies on his running game a lot. So if you put him at 4 and then Shivam Dubey at 5, that's not a great combination for Jadeja to be knocking it into the leg side, picking gaps and sprinting twos. You put him with someone like Virat Kohli or David Warner, then his game would look totally different. His strike rate would go up. So you need that partner to be able to help you out as well, to be able to just find those gaps and put pressure on opposition without hitting boundaries as well.
There are some pretty surprising stats on Jadeja though. I think in the middle overs against spin, he has a dot ball percentage of close to 40. So he's playing a lot of dot balls against spin in the middle overs. But then again, I mean, when you start the season thinking that you're going to bat at 7 and then you're pushed up to 4, that can't be easy because now It's a completely different role, a completely different type of bowler.
He was more aggressive today, though, wasn't he? Like he looked to
I
be
think it
more
was a
aggressive.
reaction of the last game as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a few more, and I want to try and get as many SRH comments too. It's like we're still focused, understandably, on the Super Kings. But this is good from, I think Joshua said this, that has today's game shown us that the Sunrisers bowling can actually win them games?
On the given track, because if you see like we spoke in the mid show, this track really suited their bowlers, especially with the way they construct their game around slow ball, especially Harshal and Jaydev, who are really economical today. Harshal obviously got 4 wickets, but on such wickets they can be a bowling attack which the batsman will really struggle against. But then again, Shami has to come good if they want to really win a lot of games. Shami is going to have to really come good with Pat Cummins up top.
Well, I think that when you look at their attack, they're a well-rounded attack. They've got Shami, beautiful new ball bowler. They've got Pat Cummins, who can bowl with the new ball, but also very good defensively into the wicket. Harshal changes the pace, Yorkers, Unadkat, left arm angle, and then Zishan, who isn't as at the quality of Rashid Khan or guys like this, but he bowled nicely today. I think the surface helped him. It's a well-rounded attack.
What's your take on 4 fast bowlers, irrespective of the surface, and just 1 spinner? Like, I would argue that.
Well, they've got Abhishek Sharma, who can bowl some left-arm spin if the conditions are right.
He does.
Come and do in this team.
Yeah. So I think that ideally you'd love to have a second spinning option, and then with the impact sub, you've obviously still got Travis Head to come into the side. So I wouldn't be too worried about that, to be honest.
I mean, looks like the Unadkat slot is one that they can always visit, looking at opposition conditions matchup. But I can see a reluctance to Rahul Chahar, which you have brought up multiple times. How much worse can they do or be if they throw in Rahul Chahar? Who knows? But the next opposition is the Gujarat Titans in Ahmedabad. So that's a tough game, form team. Shami returning there. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, there are a few more. Quickly, I'll take them. This is to Dustin Silgardo, sir. Abhishek Kumar says, Dustin Silgardo, sir, can you provide me with the stats of how many wide balls Patirana's bowled in his short IPL career?
In his entire IPL career, okay, you'll have to give me a minute or two.
Do you have anything on Patirana's wides? I think you had something.
I mean, well, he's bowled a few today, but he's bowled 5 today, wides, so that's just today. I think also he's bowled a lot of full balls and full tosses, which means he's missing a lot of Yorkers. I think he's only nailed about 14 Yorkers so far this season.
Okay.
And then most of the other attempted Yorkers.
Dustin, let me give you time to try and find that if you think you can.
I can.
All right, good man.
Dustin can find anything.
Of course he can. A couple more very quickly. Is this game shown us that Brevis is the kind of player CSK needed? In fact, it baffles me why he wasn't picked in the last game when the season was alive at the Wankhede.
Yeah, it is. And he is. We talked about it earlier. Just the impetus that they need, the almost shock to the system of CSK where you got a young kid coming in and taking it on.
He was just tired, jet-lagged. Couldn't play against his former franchise, unfortunately.
No, I think
he doesn't pick the team, mate.
Exactly. I think adrenaline would remove any sort of jet lag when you're going to go up against your old team at the Wankhede.
I think we spoke of Puran travelling 24 hours through a different time zone, playing one game on a Sunday, another game on a Monday, and the following game on a Wednesday. And he just said, I'm just hitting, I'm not thinking about sleep and what time is lunch and what time is dinner.
When you're playing well, you can do that. When you're struggling for runs, you feel a lot more tired.
All right. I want to now, of course, we've spoken at length about the Sunrisers in our mid-show as well. Apologies if I've not been able to give them as much time as we've given CSK. But I do want to bring up what MS Dhoni has actually said, because that's always triggers a nice discussion, the way Dhoni reflects on these games and speaks at the post-match presentation. I'm just trying to load that very quickly. It's been a slow day, hasn't it?
It is.
There we go. MS Dhoni has said, I think we kept losing wickets, and another thing is the first innings, the wicket was slightly better and 157 was not a justifiable score. It wasn't turning a lot, a little two-pace, but nothing out of the ordinary. He also says, in a tournament like this, if there are 1 or 2 areas to plug in the holes, it's good. But when a majority of the players are not doing well, you need to make changes. You can't just keep going. We're just not putting enough runs on the board. I think that's an admission that even in MS's long and celebrated career, perhaps he's yet to captain a team which has had so many holes or so many players out of form. Is that fair to say?
Yep, it sounds like a frustrated skipper there as well. Just not being able to bring it together. Overall, they just look short of confidence. It's almost like, I think it was you said it earlier, they're playing a game style from a couple of years ago and hoping it'll be competitive. But reality is they're still losing a lot of wickets while they're not scoring that heavily. So that's huge alarm bells.
I mean, obviously MS is absolutely right. No runs on the board, and even when the batsmen are getting a start, they're finding a way to get out. And plus, he was. They weren't very happy about the kind of wickets they were getting at the Chepauk, because when you're in form, when your batting unit is in form, you can negotiate a wicket which is not the best wicket, and you can put pressure on the opposition. But when your whole batting unit is out of form, you want a good wicket which gives them confidence. But this wicket is not giving them any sort of confidence.
All right, that is the reaction on Dhoni's comments. Quickly, a couple more on SRH. Will this kind of win, asks Joshua, scratch their mindset of boom or bust, or tempt them to deviate from it?
Depends whether they bat first or second. If they bat first, they're swinging for the fences. They're going hard. They're all or nothing. And I know it's Pat's philosophy as well as captain. You know Dan very well, Raunak, but Pat's theory is if you got the right players and you go hard enough, if you get 200 odd enough times, you'll win.
Yeah.
And you're prepared to wear the times when you get rolled for 120, or you leave yourself way short because you've gone too hard early. So he's banking his players over a 14-game season that they'll get that job done more often than not.
Yeah, I agree. I think Matt made the point earlier on the show when he assumed how will they react to one of the defeats where they went bust pretty early against KKR. And he said, I think they'll come even harder next game. And that is exactly what they did. And I'm told that is exactly what the conversation was.
Yeah.
That they went to the auction to pick a team that will play this way. If they now ask that team to play a different way.
That's when real trouble starts.
Correct. So if they're going to back this no matter what, I think they would feel like they haven't had the rub of the green at the tosses. Not a good enough excuse. The league is more competitive than that. But if they chase more games, get a few more guys firing, enough pitches where they can play that game. Even Hyderabad hasn't been as flat as perhaps previous years.
And every team who turns up and plays against Sunrisers, they're worried about what they can do on their day.
Even the Sunrisers, I'm sure, even when they're not on their best form.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, yes, that's the style of play they've committed to, but there have been enough calls for application throughout this contest. After 4 or 5 games, they were still like, you know what, we play the same style. But now, if you just see the way the communication has come through the camp, there's been a lot of talk of we need to apply ourselves on wickets as well.
Yeah, and especially with the next game being against GT, that's one of the stronger bowling lineups. And especially if you get a black soil pitch in Ahmedabad, I mean, I won't be surprised if it's a little bit of a different calculated approach from SRH.
Okay, interesting. Just to round off a couple over here. Do you have the Patirana White?
No, my phone is malfunctioning a bit like CSK.
Okay, Yasho Amonkar is saying 72 wides for Patirana in 27 IPL matches. I'm assuming one of our users has found that somehow, but if it is true, it's quite a big one. Anyway, other than that, I want to take this one, sorry. Is this the right role for Reddy? Actually giving him a minimal batting job and time to perhaps even improve his bowling in the long run, asks Udwal.
For sure, I'm assuming he's in a mental space where he's looking for runs, and especially when you're in that kind of space, you're not looking at giving yourself too many options. And when the game gives you just one option to, you know what, focus on the job at hand, you've got to win this game, and these are the balls and runs you got to get. That just simplifies his role, and that's exactly what we saw today.
Okay, there are a few who are really having a go at me saying, why aren't you discussing whether Dhoni should retire? You know, we discuss this so much. And we can probably save it for the end of the season again.
By the way, his captaincy today was pretty good. He had those innovative fields, a straight fielder, slip in, a very fine leg.
His captaincy has never been a problem.
I'm just pointing out, his keeping's fine.
Yeah.
Now the batting, obviously, it's nowhere near what you would want from a guy who's playing an important role as a finisher, and yet he's the one who's got them a couple of points and strikes better than most
everybody
of the
in the team.
Yeah, so that's the funny part about this. I can see this point of whether they could have gone to the auction and got more captaincy candidates, says Anita. But their captain was set in Gaikwad. But it's not like they've got Aiden Markram somewhere, or they've got Faf du Plessis somewhere, or someone who you could have thought, right, this guy could be a leader.
What's Gaikward's injury?
Elbow.
Elbow, yeah. That's a long road back.
Yeah.
It's not an easy one.
I think he's got a fracture.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be a discussion on MS's future at some point closer to the end of this season. We'll have it here as well, but I'm pretty sure you might hear something from MS or the Super Kings. Either we'll hear that he is done, or he'll say that he's not done. So we'll discuss both those
He
possibilities.
may say
soon.
neither, Raunak. It happens.
Yes. He may say both.
There have been times when he's just not said anything and we're left guessing. So
No, I think now he's committed to saying something. Even when he enters the IPL, this time he wore that Moss coat saying one last time. So you never know.
Yeah, and Mohit Kalro asked, why won't you discuss real issues like Jadeja going into the auction? We've spoken of that as well. That's a very fair point. And the previous games have said, you've not watched our show previously. So anyway, you can catch those. And we will have plenty of CSK reviews going forward. And like I said, I can't wait. We'll get Ambati in for one of those. Aaron and Finch together has been a running joke on the comments, as has my choice of jackets. So on that note, it's time for the rapid fire review. Gentlemen, you know how this works. Quick fire summations for the sharp and short game that we witnessed. Right. 4 with the ball and wickets at the top and the tail. What stood out in Harshal Patel's outing today, Varun Aaron?
I think first of all, the conditions really favoured him, and also he bowled the right lengths. When he bowls we all know the slow ball is his great weapon, but sometimes he tends to bowl it too full. Today he was spot on with the lengths he bowled, the slow ball.
Finchy, was this a tricky service to bat on or just 2 misfiring batting units?
Slight combination of both. I said it at the halfway mark. If Sunrisers got it, it wouldn't be an easy chase because there was just enough in it. But that's what you expect at Chepauk. It's a surface that it is too paced at times, and there can be a little bit of stickiness at holding the wicket.
All right, Dustin, you can take this one. Wickets, runs, and that catch. Rate the return of Kamindu Mendes back into the side.
I gave him 8.5 for the catch, so 8.5 for the whole performance too.
All right, very good. Finchy, back to you. What should be Hyderabad's biggest learning from this result?
Just getting it over the line. You have to win games that are on a platter for you. Chasing 150 on any surface with that kind of batting lineup, you get it done. So that'll be a real positive for them. But I think also Kaminda, he was brilliant. He had a great day. So that's a box tick for them.
All right, Varun, which of Chennai's youngsters have the most to gain now from the remaining games this season? You can pick more than one.
I think both the openers, because they've got that freedom to go out and get runs, and they're batting very well. Especially Matre. I thought in the 2 games he's played, he's batted really well. Got a very good technique as well. Doesn't really overhit the ball. Doesn't take too many risks, but get the runs.
All right, the openers probably Anshul Kamboj as well.
Anshul Kamboj as well. Yeah, 100%. Because he was dropped last game. It baffled me again. But today again coming back and showing what he can do, especially gets those wickets up front.
All right, Finchy, you can take this one. The other side of it. Which of Chennai's old guard perhaps have the most to prove in the remaining games of the season?
Well, I think it's Jadu. His batting hasn't been what we've expected from him. He's batting out of position. That's not his fault. He's just doing the job that he's been asked. He's bowling okay, as he always does. He bowls the same every single game that he turns up, but I think he's got a lot to prove with the bat still.
Yeah, I wonder if Ashwin is not even making the 11 regularly.
Tough to do anything if you're not playing.
Yeah, I wonder if this is that phase of the season now. Will they even get the chance, and will CSK look at performances before the review, or do you sense whatever you review should already be done by now, whatever your plans are?
I think CSK, if they haven't qualified by now, I'm sure the reviews have already started, because this was a game which they had to win, and them being a legacy team and not even qualifying is tough.
It's getting tough, and it is now, for all practical purposes, done, you would think, for CSK. We've given the opinion that 16 points is certainly required with the way the top 3 have gone and the kind of form Mumbai Indians are in, the promise that Punjab Kings show as well. So unless something extraordinary happens, and our stats team will have you covered on ESPN Cricket Info, but the best that the Super Kings can now get to is 14, which is not impossible. Teams have qualified with 14 and a decent net run rate. Chennai don't have that going for them. Either Hyderabad managed to just pip Rajasthan. They take 8th place for now as the Gujarat Titans await. As far as the Super Kings go, it's very interesting next game as well. They stay at the Chepauk for the Punjab Kings, a team that tends to beat them more often than others before this season at home. Right, thank you very much to Aaron and Finch. And to Dustin. Dustin, you'll be back tomorrow. Nice little break for both of you. You're off to Kolkata tomorrow. Finchy, you'll be back with us soon. I hope.
I will be.
And we look forward to your company for what is actually a really important game. KKR and Punjab. The last time they played, they gave us one of the most insane games of a low-scoring thriller at New Chandigarh. That game's at the Eden Gardens. Build up on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for timeout just before the toss. See you tomorrow.
How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.